Click for IB Biology. In this video, we're going to be looking at the analysis of feeding interactions, who's eating who, and the transfer of energy and matter that follow as a consequence of those interactions. We will be identifying trophic levels, the level of feeding, within food chains. There's a blank PDF of this presentation down in the description. You can use that to annotate with your own notes. Then there's some quick questions, 10 questions with answers. Doing those questions will help you to recall the information in this video more effectively. Let's take a look at the analysis of feeding interactions. So in my first food chain, I'm going to represent that with a local example, which is a seasonal equatorial forest. And the first level is always occupied by a producer with the capacity to perform photosynthesis. So that's the conversion of light energy into chemical energy. And that chemical energy ends up forming the biomass of the growth, in this case, of the fig tree. So the fig tree is a producer. Its trophic level is as a producer. The flying lemur moves from one tree to another, eating parts of the tree, perhaps the leaves or indeed the fruit. And this will make the flying lemur what's now called a primary consumer, a first level consumer of producers. So they eat plants. And of course, we would otherwise know that as a herbivore. But in trophic levels, we would describe that as a primary consumer. So here we have our flying lemur on a tree about to eat part of the fig tree. When we say primary, this can be denoted by this annotation here, the one with the small 0 in the superscript. Now the primary consumers have then taken the energy and matter in the tree and transformed it through eating to become a lemur, but some of that, of course, will have been lost as heat in the process. The flying lemur is subject to the predation of the clouded leopard as it moves around in the tree. So the clouded leopard will be acting as the secondary consumer in this chain. And of course, typically now, this is a carnivore eating the flying lemur, and the energy and matter of the flying lemur is transferred to become a cloud leopard. So the cloud leopard is now classified at the second trophic level. In turn, it's conceivable that the occasional clouded leopard might be preyed upon by a tertiary consumer with the 30 superscript shown here. So this is, in this case, is a king cobra. And the king cobra is capable of killing and eating a cloud leopard as its food source. And so the energy and matter, which is cloud leopard, is transferred to being a king cobra. And so at each level, each transfer, there's energy and matter transferred, but there are losses in terms of thermal energy. The food chains that I'm showing you are examples local to here, to my location, but you might prefer, as you learn examples, to choose ones from your local environment. Close to here, we have mangroves, which are forests on the edge of estuary environments, where trees are found in the mangrove trees are of the group Rhizophora, and the leaves and the fruits of the Rhizophora are often eaten by this species of fish here, which is called a mud skipper, which can move around on the mud with its adaptations and consume the Rhizophora. And so the energy transfer of energy and matter is from this primary consumer to this, from this producer to this primary consumer, which is a herbivore. And in turn, mud skippers become the prey of something like an egret, right? This bird here, which we find in the mangrove. So if it captures a mud skipper and eats it, then the energy which is inside the mud skipper is then transferred to the egret. So the egret then is the secondary consumer. It's a carnivore. And potentially, on rare occasions, the egret will be become the prey of the white-bellied sea eagle, which often flies over these regions, and the white-bellied sea eagle would then be known as a tertiary consumer. So as in the forest that we looked at, we have the same sequence in our food chain: producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, that we can apply to all food chains. And so with these two examples here, what we could do is, if you pause the video, then you can add your own annotations and then check with my annotation in a few moments. So I'll hesitate now. So in these freshwater food chains, here we have the water hyacinth. So this is the producer doing the photosynthesis on the fresh water, eaten by the algae eating. So there's actually algae growing on these water hyacinth. This particular fish here, which is a primary consumer, eaten by the snakehead fish. That should have an H there, snakehead fish. That would become the secondary consumer. And then the grey heron may very well prey upon the snakehead fish, making it the tertiary consumer. So recall that in each transfer, there are two things which transfer: energy in the matter at each step is being passed along the food chain, but we also recall that at each step, some of that energy is being lost in the form of thermal energy. And of course, this example here, the tropical mountain forest, our producer is the bamboo, so that's our producer doing the photosynthesis, trapping the light energy from the sun, consumed by the bamboo rat, in turn by the Asian leopard cat, making this the primary consumer, the secondary consumer, and the Asian bear, in principle, can catch the leopard cat, making it a tertiary consumer. Now, one of the features of food chains is that if we take the Asian black bear as an example, Asian black bears are indeed carnivorous. But Asian black bears can also be included in a food chain where they would be operating as a primary consumer. And one of the disadvantages of food chains is that they don't allow you to show that an organism can be both a primary consumer and a secondary or tertiary consumer, which of course is what we call an omnivore. So in this diagram, the bear is shown as a carnivore. If we placed the bear here, it would be shown as a herbivore. But in fact, it's an omnivore. So we perhaps need a more complex form of diagram to show that kind of relationship, which of course are food webs. Links to the next video on this topic are appearing here. The chance to subscribe to the channel and the playlist are there as well.